Hi everybody, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface on the live servers for Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward expansion in one of the top level dungeons, Neverreap. Now this dungeon requires an item level of 145 before you can even attempt it. So if you have reached level 60 and not quite attained that item level, you've still got a little bit of work to do. Either craft some gear, go and do some of the lower level dungeons that you can that do offer gear of a nature that will allow you to get into this place. But once you do, and it doesn't take long, it took me no time whatsoever when I hit 60 to get to 145, you can attempt this place. It will drop item level 160 stuff, so it will give you a nice substantial boost if you are fortunate enough to pick up some gear. And I'm just whizzing through the trash. There's nothing particularly to be bothered about here. At the very start of the dungeon, you pick up 5 thunder eggs, and they allow you to do what you've just seen, bounce from one platform to another. This platform is the one that you should, when I say worry about, you can see that there is moving tornadoes. Just position their ads that's not in the pathway of this tornado, then you can just blow them down either through AoE or whatever you want to do, and then you can just like slip past the tornadoes. If you do get caught by one, it'll just knock you up in the air, do a little bit of moderate to low damage, nothing too panicky, but obviously if you're trying to fight while getting blasted up by tornadoes, then it's just going to be rather annoying more than anything for you as a party. But there is a substantial bit of trash in as much as, because you'll be arriving at these dungeons early doors. Remember, this expansion is literally coming up to a week old off its official release. We are still of an item level, or the vast majority of people are still of an item level where these will be at their toughest. So first boss up, oh, and my goodness, this is an easy one to pronounce. I want to call him Terry, because Terry to me is just, there you go, you know, Terry. But apparently he's called Nu-Nue. Terry. Right, so what abilities does Terry do? Well, first up, you saw that he had that big AoE on the ground, lots of circles. If there are yellow circles on the ground, move out of them. It's not a good thing. And then every so often, we'll get this, the darkness phase, where he literally obscures your view of the whole fight and what's going on around you. You'll have to find his shadow form and defeat that to bring the fight back to reality. Also, in that zone as well, you'll notice, in that phase, you'll also notice there are a couple of ads. Destroy them as quickly as possible. You see the yellow circles, they're spawning all these feathers. There you go. You see the big AoE feathers coming down. If you are caught in them, don't panic. It's not a kill mechanic. There are a lot of kill mechanics in dungeons and bosses and stuff like that, but you'll just take a moderate bit of damage. And then every so often, as we just saw there, he'll do a party-wide AoE. So healers, you're pretty much just looking out for a few AoE heals if somebody gets caught in the yellow circles on the ground, and OVs looking after the tank as we move now into another night phase. You will see that the yellow circles appear during the night phase as well. It might look all hunky-dory on the video, but trust me, your view is seriously obscured and your reaction time is going to be slightly lower when you see them. So just try and be on your toes as much as possible. Again, defeat the shadow, but more feathers will appear and kill the ads first. I would say ads priority for DPS is obviously tank, sticks onto the shadow, and just get them blown down as quickly as possible. You don't really want to have these up because they're just going to cause problems if they come back. So here it goes, back into his regular form again. Now each time you notice we are blasting off a fair bit of health from the boss. So it's not as if... Get moving. It's not as if this is going to be a particularly slow fight. There's the AoE. Didn't do massive damage, so healer, you're going to be alright as well. So this fight shouldn't cause you any particular troubles. It's a nice little starter to get you warmed up, should we say. Then towards the end of the fight, as we're getting now, you'll notice the ads are also spawning in day phase 2, as well as the night phase. So again, DPSs, just be aware of this, get onto them. They have next to no health whatsoever and can be exploded down really quickly indeed. Then whack up a limit break and steal the kill. like I just did then. Huzzahs! Grab yourself a few Tonestones of Law, which are the new currency to get the, I think it's 170 item level gear, and if you're fortunate enough to snag a piece from the boss as well, so yay. Double dipping all the way through. So we move on now to the next phase of trash. Couple of areas before we go into the next boss. You'll also hopefully find a couple of treasure chests in this area as well, which you can click onto and see what you get. Sometimes it depends. I see that in this area it tends to drop dye for your garments if you want to change the colours of them more than gear. There's another phase of trash after the second boss, and there's a couple of treasure chests hidden around there as well. Those two tend to drop gear as opposed to dye. But there's nothing untoward again to be bothered about here. In actual fact, our tank decided to play it a little bit cautiously, and there was nothing wrong with that whatsoever, because I've done this dungeon a couple of times now, and the first tank kind of pulled everything. And then this tank has just grabbed the small packs, the couple of bees and such as they've been passing through, and we've been dealing with that before we deal with the big treant. In my first experience of this dungeon, the guy pretty much grabbed the whole lot. Grabbed the bees, grabbed the treant, all in one, and then, oh, there you go, I won a piece of gear. Woohoo! Won the boots, I think. Woohoo! He grabbed the treant, he grabbed all the ads, and then we did it that way. This way, I actually found much quicker. I don't understand why it appeared that way, but it just felt much quicker, because dealing with the short ads, and then when we could all focus on the treant, as opposed to with the treant hitting stuff and only taking a little bit of damage while we focused on the smaller minions of the bees and such, that seemed to take a lot of time. So I actually prefer the second method, but it's entirely up to you. Entirely up to you which way you decide to choose. Now then, the second boss. This is actually a very simple boss, and it's called Canarvon. I think I got a subscriber on my Twitch channel called Vanu. But it's called Canarvon. Very simple mechanics, but this is one of the most fun fights I have had in a long time. Tank, first of all, face him away from the raid. It's kind of standard fare, really, that, isn't it? Because he will do frontal cone attacks, so melee DPSs make sure you haven't got yourself positioned in front either. Every so often, we'll get this sacred totem cast, where you get a mark above your head, drop it, or we're dropping it, around the edge of the circles. It'll do a tiny bit of damage, healers heal up. But when he completes the cast, you'll notice that big purple circular area spawns randomly around the battlefield. If there are any of these totems in that by the end of the cast, they will come to life. I won't tell you what they do when they come to life until later in the video. But what you need to do is pick them up, right click, interact with them, and move them out of the purple circle. And then a drop button mechanic appears, drop them outside. And you'll be fine. And then you can literally just continue DPSing on the boss as normal. I know it sounds really basic, but when you're in the heat of battle, and when you're a DPSer, it can get a boring, lonely job at times, just like standing there, pew, 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 pew. So having something to get yourself involved with like this is good fun. It is good fun. So again, I've been targeted. I dropped the totem. Don't panic about too many totems appearing all around the place, because after a period of time, the earlier totems that spawned will just simply vanish. So it's not a matter of just totems and rising. Although I wouldn't have minded seeing that. I wouldn't have minded seeing that indeed. That could have been very interesting. Maybe if they do a harder mode of this in the future, they might just do that. It doesn't matter how many totems spawn, they all stay, so you've got to position them. And as you can see, when we are dropping the totems, we are spreading them out. Because when the purple circle drops, the last thing that you want is to have a bunch of totems next to each other, and it lands on top of all of them. So suddenly everybody's got to pick up totems and move them out. So this is, I think, where we get a little bit of a fail. We have two totems here. I pick up one, drop it out of the way. Somebody else has got one. But the third DPSer, I don't know if he was moving one to another area, but one got away. So this totem came to life, and you'll notice that it links up with the boss. It makes the boss invulnerable to damage. So this is why these totems are very important indeed. So if that happens, you then have to switch your attention to the totems as opposed to the boss. Kill the totems. They haven't got a huge amount of health. They do die pretty quickly indeed. Then you can go back onto the boss, and for the second time in 2 fights, do a limit break and kill Steel, because that's my job, I suppose. It's what I do. Okay, so we move now to the third and final part of trash. Couple of things to look out for here as well. Number one, you're cordoned off from time to time, so you can't just whiz all the way through and grab as many ads as you want. You can get to a finite point as we've got now. Number two, you notice that these water fountains start blasting up in random places. It doesn't seem to give any warning where or when they're going to pop up. But when they do, and if they're on you, get out of the way. And as mentioned slightly earlier in the video, I did say there is a couple of treasure chests that are hidden around this area. Definitely one. You can probably just see it sneakily hidden over there. And I'm pretty sure there was a second. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there was a second the first time I was here. Maybe it's random. Who knows? Or maybe we just missed one when we were here. But again, it's not too difficult. It just kind of like winds you down after a boss fight. Get yourself all composed like again and in it. Ready for the next boss, which is going to be the final boss. And to be perfectly honest with you, is pretty cool, and it's most likely going to take a little bit. He's a bit of a sponge to start with, which adds to the interest of the mechanics of the fight, but we'll get onto that momentarily. So yeah, nothing to worry about trash-wise. You can group them up, you can AoE them down, as best you can anyway, and here we go. This is the boss, spawning into the arena and giving it all, you know, eggs and bacon. Now then, one of our DPSs went AFK for a bit, and so we started messing around, jumping over the area which blasts you, but somehow I failed and landed on the spikes and had to run back to the fight. I wasn't going to tell you that, but I decided to confess. Anyway, the third and final boss is called Wokou. Well, that's as good as a pronunciation as you're ever going to get from me. And there's plenty of things in this fight to be aware of. First of all, again, tank, standard fare. Position away from the group. Make sure that they don't get hit by any frontal cones. Number two, a random player will get targeted. You saw that big orange symbol that was on myself earlier. That will deal light damage and then spawn an ad. Kill the ad ASAP. And then he'll get into this phase where he just randomly wanders around the battlefield and then does what looks like it's going to be a huge pulsating AoE. Well, it is. But instead of trying to get as far away from the boss as possible, no, you've got to get as close to the boss as possible and make sure you've got the biggest surface area of battleground behind you, because when he does finish the AoE cast, it blasts you all back. If you are too close to the edge, and one of our party members nearly went over the edge, you will get blasted over the side. This is not going to invisible wall you at the edge. No, you will go over. There's spikes in the pit down below. You will be killed. And then after that phase is finished, a tornado will then spawn into the battleground. If you get caught up in the tornado, there we go, you'll get knocked up into the air and get moderate damage dealt to you as well. Probably around between 1,500 to 2,000. So just be careful, especially if we're operating on relatively low health pools at this present moment in time. Also, healers, just to have a quick word with you, if I may, after the huge AoE comes in, which is going to happen anytime now, it's going to start his pulsating AoE. Just look at the big dip in health when it actually hits. Boom. You see, that's a big one. That's what you've got to be looking out for. So if you've got AoE heals available, get them up. Scholars, you know, make sure your shields are up as best possible before that hits to absorb as much of the damage as physically possible. Again, there's lots of possibilities going on here. But that's the one that you really, really have to worry about. There you go, up in the air, 1,111. Oh, wasn't that very symmetrical? And then, of course, we'll still get the ads coming into the fight, as well as the tornadoes. Oh, by the way, after phase 2, a second tornado comes into play, making it even harder. So be on your toes for that. I have seen them merge as well. So be extra careful in case you get these tornadoes merging. And one thing that I haven't mentioned so far, which you've got to pay attention to, is when the boss goes into his random wander around the battlefield phase, he has a big shield around him. Here it goes up now. He's immune to damage. It's absolutely irrelevant trying to attack him during this phase. He is immune to damage. This is why you have to stop and focus all your attention on the ads, which are now around the place, which are doing some pretty nasty magic damage. And because there's enough of them around the place, there's multiple ones of these ads around the place, they could put a couple of people in a little bit of trouble. Healer, just be on point. Especially when you've got 2 tornadoes going around the battlefield as well. So, you know, don't get too kind of like cocky that you're coming towards the end of the fight. Make sure you're still aware of your surroundings, like Batman Begins. Make sure you can see where the tornadoes are coming from, where the ads are that you've got to blow down. I could have used a couple of abilities. I could have silenced one. I could have reduced its magic damage. I probably should have done that just to help out a little bit extra on top of what I have been doing. So yeah, just be mindful of things like that. And then you'll get this water-based AoE, which will hit all party members. But that's not a big hit. It's nothing for you to fret about. And then you should claim yourself the kill. And that is the dungeon complete. So I hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do get a thumbs up and also subscribe. Follow me on social media as well as Twitch for live streaming. Those links are in the description down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. Who should I give my accommodation to? It's the healer. He did a brilliant job. You take care, everybody. Bye-bye.